And I remember after the break, we turned onto this road, and it was the straightest road I'd ever seen, and there was nothing. And in my mind, I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to walk from here all the way to the horizon. So I had people say to me, walk 50 miles in a day? What are you, crazy? How are you gonna do that? Why do you even wanna do that? Like, your body's not gonna be able to withstand walking 50 miles. Like, people train, hikers train, mountaineers train, and they do like 20, 30 miles tops. To be able to try to do 50 miles, you're completely out of your mind. And why would you ever wanna do anything like that? Well, let me tell you why. I was a senior in high school, my brother was a sophomore. My brother and I were at home, and we had just got back from the movies, and it was a little later in the evening, and my mom wasn't home yet, but I knew that she was out to dinner with a friend, and I wasn't too worried that she wasn't home. But that's when I got a call from my dad, and my dad said that my mom was in the hospital. The next morning, early in the morning, my dad, my brother, and I, we go down to the hospital, and my mom was in an intensive care unit. And we didn't know what was going on, but I do remember seeing my mom in the hospital bed, unconscious, motionless, not moving at all. And I remember just not being worried for whatever reason. Maybe it was my ignorance. And I remember asking the nurse, do you think my mom will remember any of this when she's conscious? And little did I know what the prognosis was and what actually has happened to my mom. I'm not sure if it was the same day or the next day, but my mom was still unconscious, motionless in the bed, and the doctor had come into the room, and he gave us the diagnosis. My mom had suffered a severe hemorrhagic stroke. Her blood pressure was 250 over 180, and a blood vessel literally exploded in her head. And the doctor, trying to tell us how bleak the situation was, he went to pinch my mom's arm. And as he pinched her arms, I remember, went out. And I was like, oh, look, she's responding to the pinch. That's a good sign. And I remember the doctor turned to us and said, when a doctor sees that from a stroke patient, that's the worst case scenario. And he went on to explain that it was the body's most primitive response. He said that he had never seen anyone in the Northeast recover from this kind of stroke, and my mom was on complete life support. She had a shunt placed in her brain to relieve the pressure in the cerebral spinal fluid. She had a tube placed, a tracheal tube placed in her throat in order for the machine to breathe. She had a tube in her stomach in order to put food into her. And she was basically dead. The machines were keeping her alive. Obviously, as any son would, I think about my mom a lot. Especially I think about her when I'm working out. And if you're anything like me, there's plenty of times where I'll be in the workout and doing my thing, and then you hit this wall and you hit this point of pain, and you don't want to go any further. You don't want to push yourself anymore because it goes from not being fun to sucking. And mentally you give yourself all these reasons as to why you should stop right now. Oh, you're tired. Oh, you don't want to hurt yourself. Oh, X, Y, and Z. And those could be legitimate reasons. But more often than not, it's just an excuse because we don't want to push through pain. And I think about my mom and what she would give in order to be able to work out, in order to be able to do a push-up, to be able to walk, to be able to go for a run. The thing that I complain about as sucking or not being fun, the ability to do a push-up, the ability to push myself physically, my mom would do anything to be able to do that. So in actuality, this thing that I'm complaining about is not so much, it's a blessing. In light of my mom's story, Nick and I were working out one day, and we're constantly thinking of ways to challenge ourselves and push ourselves. And I had this idea of walking 50 miles in a day, and I pitched it to Nick.
The two of us been talking about doing some type of challenge, and at that time just thinking out loud, what could we do that would be really neat and unique and fascinating? So when he mentioned it to me, let's walk 50 miles in a day, at first I thought, could we even do that? Is that possible?
In the coming days and weeks, that's something that we bounced the idea around and we talked about it to see if we could actually do it and make it happen.
Let's do a challenge that most people would say is impossible.
I realized like, whoa, May 29th is gonna be 10 years since my mom suffered her stroke, and I was like, man, like what better way to honor her and what better way to say no to this stroke than to go out and walk 50 miles for my mom. Well, I told you I have a surprise, right? I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
So on May 25th, which is in 2 weeks, I'm gonna walk from the Delaware River, Washington Crossing, to Belmar in 1 day. That's 50 miles. 50 miles.
Cool?
No, not pishki, I'm gonna walk. Pishki. And I'm doing it for you.
Oh, the government.
So as far as the route goes, we started to think through different locations. One of the things we thought about was, what would it be like if we walked from the Trenton, New Jersey area down to Philadelphia? You know, what would that look like? The other routes that we were looking at were in state parks, and then either Dan or I can't remember who, we just said, what about if we walked to the ocean? And we Google mapped it and we started to play around with it, and we realized that right around the area of Washington Crossing, all the way to Belmar, New Jersey, was a pretty straight shot, and it was right around 50 to 51 miles.
Yes, so our meeting space is going to be somewhere on this Bardsville. Meet us in Bardsville. Unless the other option is we kept going on Old Trenton and came up and caught 33. I don't know if I want to walk on 33. Okay, yeah, all right.
Really, the way we came up with the route was looked it up on Google Maps, found that it was like right about 50 miles, and that's what we went with. If you took Google Maps, put in pedestrian mode, those 2 points, that's the exact route, except for one slight modification that we went on.
That's our route. This is actually possible.
But we knew that this is going to take us a long time. We estimated anywhere from 17 to 18 hours. And what we did is we broke up the route into different chunks. We had checkpoints every 5 miles.
And the whole intention was that every 5 miles we would have a place where we could stop for a few minutes, get some water, get some snacks ready to go, and then continue on.
Checkpoint 3, we haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know what that is.
I was gonna go, on my way home, I was gonna drive the route again.
Okay.
And then go beyond, so we need another checkpoint. It's every 5 miles.
Right.
So we need 5 miles beyond.
Checkpoint 3 is probably in the park.
In the park, or like right after the park by my house. But there's nothing really around there. It might be that funky 5 Points corner. I did a drive of the route to just see what we're dealing with, what the roads are like, shoulders, no shoulders, sidewalks, and the precarious intersections. And then it all looked pretty good. There are some places that are rather tight, and so we'll have to do single file line and stay as to the side of the road as possible. So this is the end point. This is the end state. This is what we're gonna see at the end of our 50-mile journey. If you look 50 miles directly west of where I'm standing right now, that is where we'll be starting.
The final route was a 51.9 mile stretch of land from the Delaware River in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania to Belmar, New Jersey. And it would start with us touching the Delaware River, like actually putting our hand in the water, and then finish with us going to Belmar, walking across the sand and putting our hand into the Atlantic Ocean. And by doing that, we would have walked across the beltline of New Jersey, traversing the state and accomplishing our goal.
Originally, we were going to do it within 3 weeks. We set a March date and we thought, let's do this. And then when we realized what the actual training would look like and how we would actually need to prepare for this, we ended up pushing it back.
We kind of changed our regimen, our workout regimen a little bit, where we did some more high rep endurance exercises, and then we also involved a lot of walking.
We spent every Tuesday in the gym. We'd bring in a book bag, and we would take 20, 30, 40 pounds, and we walked on the treadmill. We put it on an incline, and we simply just walked with a heavy backpack on.
And really just get that abuse and wear and tear on our feet and build up our stamina. And then also we would, every Saturday, we would do longer walks. We first did like I think a 4-mile walk, then a 7-mile walk, then we did a 12-mile walk. And on this 12-mile walk, I remember I had these specific socks on, and I thought they would work really well, but unfortunately they didn't. And after that 12-mile walk, I remember I had a huge blister like this size on the bottom, on the ball of my right foot, which was not very fun. And that was only 12 miles. And so I knew I had to change things up a little bit with my socks. And
6 a.m. on May 4th. We're 3 weeks away from the Delta Bell Challenge, from the big kahuna, the big 50-miler. And so today we're gonna do somewhere between 15 and 20 miles. We're gonna do the first leg of our journey as a practice. There's a big hill at the beginning. So we're right now in Washington Crossing. We're gonna cross over the bridge into New Jersey and go up the hill.
In that training, the longest training we did 22 miles, and that was the first 10, 11 miles of the actual route. We went one way and then we turned around and came back.
Uh-oh, raindrops. No way. So right now we are 11 miles into our training walk. We are in Lawrenceville, New Jersey at the Wawa on Route 1. We decided at every 10-mile interval we're gonna have a 10-minute break. So just relax, put the feet up, get a little rest. Unfortunately, it's starting to rain right now, but a little bit of rain never killed anybody.
One of the challenges that we had to overcome was figuring out some of the equipment needs, and primarily that was our shoes. And what do we wear for shoes for 50 miles? And when we did our 22-mile training walk, I had Nike sneakers, and they're great sneakers. I've run in them, but what I realized after about 15 to 16 miles, the bottom of my feet, they were burning because there just simply wasn't enough padding for the 20-mile, 22-mile walk that we were on.
We have a foot doctor in our church, and he recommended some Hokas, and I had gone out and I tried on a pair. They fit well, and it worked for me.
I had struggles with finding shoes. I had about 5 or 6 pairs that I had bought, and I tried them out on the treadmill at the gym. I returned them.
Every day he would come to the gym with like a different pair of sneakers. He tried on what seemed like 30 pairs of shoes, and he couldn't find the right fit, and this was too narrow, this one was too wide, this was too big, this was too small, this one didn't fit. And so it's pretty comical seeing him come to the gym with a new pair of sneakers.
I think every time we did a training walk, Dan would look down and say, "You got a new pair of shoes," because that was the weeks leading up to the race. It was me trying on shoes and trying to figure out how do we get the right pieces of equipment to make sure we have everything for the long haul.
But in the end, we both had Hokas, and they worked really, really well. Stood up to the wear and tear, and really gave some cushion, nice cushion to our feet. So as May 1st came around, we had 24 days before the big walk, and that's when we went into overdrive. We started posting things on social media, we started getting friends and family involved, And that's when it really became real, because once you start putting things out there on social media, there's this social pressure. Now you've said you're gonna do this and now you have to do it. So it kind of really kept us accountable, and the feedback we were getting from people was both of like, wow, that's amazing, I can't believe you're doing that, to like, oh my gosh, you're never gonna be able to make that. You're not gonna be able to do that.
We were telling people that our plan was to walk 50 miles in roughly 17 to 18 hours. And when we told people that, they said, what? There's no way you're gonna be able to do that.
And Nick and I, we really took those comments were like, you're not gonna be able to do it, you're not gonna be able to do it. And we used that as fuel to challenge ourselves and be like, no, we're gonna be able to do this thing.
And in a way, I wanted to prove them wrong. In a way, I wanted to challenge myself and focus in on the mental toughness that Dan and I both knew it was gonna take to finish this walk. The night before the walk, we went to bed right around 9 o'clock.
You wanna say anything?
6 hours, baby. 6 hours.
In 6 hours, we will embark. Is it 6 hours? 9 o'clock? Yeah, less than 6 hours. We will embark on the first annual Del to Bell Challenge, 50 miles from Washington Crossing to Belmar, New Jersey. These are cots for the night.
So the day before the walk, I don't really recall exactly what happened, but I do remember that we had to get to bed early that evening.
We knew that we needed to wake up around 2:30 a.m. and we needed to be walking by 3 a.m. to get down to Belmar between 8:30 and 10 o'clock at night.
Try to get 5.5 hours of sleep.
Personally, I didn't sleep that great. I was tossing and turning. I was excited. I was anxious.
We woke up at 2:30, so we didn't get the most sleep. But it wasn't bad. And I do remember waking up and like, okay, come on, let's like get our stuff on, get all our gear, our reflective vest.
Kicks are going on.
Here we go. I didn't feel tired because the adrenaline was pumping and we were ready to go. So we had all of our equipment laid out and we knew what we needed, and we quickly packed our bag. We had our food, we had our supplies, and we got rolling.
Yeah, so we picked them up from the church around 3 a.m. We drove them to the start line. We prayed together, we huddled up, then they were off.
It's 3 o'clock.
Del to Bell, 2019.
Yeah, man. 50 miles, 24 hours.
17 hours.
Let's do it, baby. Oh, you got us? Yeah. It's not that bad. It's kind of warm.
We touched the Delaware River and we were off.
Del to Bell 2019.
The first few miles of the walk were the most peaceful miles. It was 3:30 in the morning and there is no one else out, and there's silence, and all you can hear is Dan and I just simply walking. Around 6 a.m. we got to that Wawa and we were able to sit and stretch a little bit.
What's up, Cabo? Hey,
We're doing it, man. What's up?
How's it going so far?
Good to see you guys. You been sleeping?
Yeah, dude, snoozing the whole time. Fortunately enough, I had a minivan and I had a cot set up in the back, so it was like a full like sleeping setup. So my plan was basically in between the different checkpoints, I would just be napping while Dan and Nick were walking.
When we left Wawa, this is after 10 miles, leaving that Wawa, we were going into part of the rest of the walk that we had never done before. We didn't know what it was going to be like, and the roads were sharper, and we were hugging the side of the road, and cars were getting closer. So all of a sudden, the entire experience got louder.
Just two guys going for a walk. Just a walk in the park.
We were like, should we cheer for them? We're like, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Hello! How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, Leanne brought a bike for you, Dan?
You biked here?
Little cheek. I did, yeah.
Wow.
That wasn't too bad.
How far?
15 miles, 18 miles.
Oh, that's it. Nice. That's what we just did.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably less than what you've walked this morning.
Going through those 20 miles, 25 miles, I started to develop some blisters, and I was having some foot pain, but nothing crazy, nothing outrageous, and just kept taking one step in front of the other and moving along. It's not that riveting.
Especially now, because we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We continued on miles 15, miles 20. We had the drone flying over us and taking footage. We crossed Route 130, and at that point, we were right around mile 20, and we're thinking, we're gonna do this.
What's up? Hey!
Long time.
Making it! Dan heard a buzzing over there. He's like, what is that? And we looked up.
We were wondering when you guys would see it.
Yeah. Man, look at this convoy we got.
Yo, we took over this spot.
At this point, we started to see people at our different checkpoints, and they were encouraging us.
What's up?
20 miles. 20 miles in.
What's up, Shifra?
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming.
Of course. Hey, Nick.
How are you?
Good.
About to cross the 95 bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember standing at the top of the bridge thinking, how many people actually walk across this bridge? And you could feel the bridge shaking because of the wind. And right around mile 25, 26, we got to our lunch stop. And what an amazing moment. We had about 20, 30 people there cheering us on.
Leading up to lunch, I kind of had this sense that my mom would be there, that either my dad or my brother, someone would go pick up my mom from her nursing home and bring her to the lunch spot. And as we turned that corner and I saw people, and then I see my mom sitting there in her wheelchair, and it was really neat and cool to see her there and to know that I'm doing this for her because she can't right now, because she's sitting in this wheelchair. I'm taking this step and I'm walking for her. It was really, really good to see her.
As we were finishing up lunch at 30, 35 minutes, it started to sink in that we have to do another 25 miles now.
A part of me had this like false sense of accomplishment. Like everyone was cheering for us and it was great, but I knew that we were cheering for something that hadn't been accomplished yet. And I just knew like this next bit, whatever we're going through, I knew it was going to be difficult. I just had this sense, and little did I know how difficult it would be. I remember up until this point, Nick and I, we had some really good banter. We would have conversation. It was great.
And those miles, Dan and I didn't talk much. We had run out of things to say. We were also both starting to feel the pain.
That was a tough 5 miles.
Yeah.
That was in the book that we write, it's going to be, the chapter title is going to be The Silent Miles. We didn't say a word.
And I remember I had my hat on, and I remember just zoning into the ground, just like burying my eyes into the road, finding an imperfection in the road to walk to. Like I said, Nick and I weren't talking. I was just so laser focused on this road. Physically, I was really starting to feel it, and it was brutal. But mentally, the amount of focus it needed to like block out the pain and to just lock into what you're doing was crazy.
They're looking pretty rough right now. This is 35 miles, and they're both really starting to feel it.
The checkpoints were quieter, and we sat down more and we rested a little bit longer than we were in the first part of the walk.
Nick, you are going to earn that beach day tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow and Monday, all right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow and Monday, for sure.
I remember those breaks were more of a mental break than they were a physical break. Because physically, it didn't, your pain didn't really change, but mentally, just to be able to sit down and not have to be so focused on the road was absolutely, those, like I said, those breaks were more mental breaks than they were physical breaks.
All right, boys, now talk. Get out of
Hey, great seeing you. I don't want to get yelled at anymore. Thank you, thank you.
Yo, my inner thighs are sore.
You want to stretch them at all? Or?
No.
I love you.
Love you too, baby.
You soon, Leah.
Sickle sticks, man.
What?
This hurts, dude.
Yeah.
I never want to do this again. Ever.
Dang. Definitely look like they're in a good amount of pain.
We're somewhere between 35 and 40 miles. I think something like 36 miles. It's painful, not really fun anymore. But we're getting there one step at a time.
This is mile number 40.
Want to fill this up in the water, please? Absolutely. We'll help with some of the time.
You want to trade socks?
10 miles to go.
I think we're at like 10 and a half.
10 and a half?
10 and a half, yeah. 10 and a half, yeah.
It was excruciating. I was hunched over. My legs were killing me, my feet, my ankles, knees, my hips, and it was not fun. A little bit. Thanks, dude.
I want to be there. I want to make sure that I do everything that I can to make sure that they have the best chance of success.
Oh, thank you. You guys are servants, man. I love it. Woo!
I think we got the easy job. Yeah, really.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye,
Stop.
Bye, babe. So right now we are a little over 40 miles. And miles 30 to 40 were absolutely brutal. Brutal to the point where you're just clenching your teeth and staring at the ground and finding a point to walk to, and then another point to walk to, and then another.
The death trap, the bear trap,
Yeah, it was awful.
the
So
valley of destruction.
yeah, it was not fun. So glad that's behind us. From mile 40 to mile 45, it was a second wind for us. Nick and I started joking again, and we're like, what were we thinking, man? This is a horrible idea. I want to finish this so I never have to do this again. This is absolutely brutal. We got like 10, 11 miles left. Still moving, it's a little slower, but we're still moving.
We got to one point where we had to make a left-hand turn, and the road that we were turning on was Belmar Boulevard.
Before the final checkpoint, it was another straight, long road. It was telephone pole after telephone pole. I remember getting a text from a friend of mine, and he said, the pain that you'll feel from regret not finishing this walk will be greater than the pain that you feel right now. I didn't care how far I had to walk. I'm just like zoning in, locking my eyes into the road and just walking to that next step, next step, next step, next step, to finally we got to our final checkpoint. Lee.
What do you need?
Gatorade?
Gatorade? Mike, what do you need?
I'll just take a water.
Thank you so much. Are you guys tired or just in pain?
Just a little bit.
You gonna keep the shirt on?
And I remember us both just sitting on the ground, kind of looking around like, how are we gonna finish this?
We're exhausted. We are not having a good time. We're in pain. Everything in my body hurt. I did not want to continue walking along.
Does it feel like it's getting any easier? Like you're settling into the pain, or is it?
No.
No, it's still as painful.
Yeah.
And the way it worked out, we had more than 5 miles to go to the end. We had like 6.5 miles. It was a longer stretch, and Nick and I were not looking forward to this.
You got this, guys.
Love you. See you at the finish line.
Love you.
We'll see you.
All right, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Wanting ibuprofen?
We're like two old crippled men.
You literally walked 50 miles, guys.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
44, come on. The sun is setting. They're coming to an end.
Walking to Belmar.
Yeah.
Guess that's how people used to do it in the olden days.
Yeah. I wonder if they also woke up at 2:45 in the morning.
They probably didn't do it in a day.
Probably took them a week.
6 miles to go.
Yeah, we just left checkpoint 9, and we are wiped and in pain and slow moving. But yeah, we got 6 miles left till we get to the beach.
The final 5 miles of our walk was one of the most mentally challenging moments of my life. At this point in the walk, every part of my body hurt. My thighs hurt. To simply put one foot in front of the other was painful. I had the map on my phone and seeing how many miles we had to go. And like I would look at my phone like every 5 minutes and it would be like the same distance every single time. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh man, we got like 3 miles left. Can't come quick enough. And at one point, we had like 3 miles to go, and I remember looking at my watch and figuring out like, that's gonna take us like an hour. Like I gotta watch my minute, like the minute hand go around my watch for another hour. I got to a point where I was so mentally fried and emotionally fried, I thought that I was just gonna start crying. This is brutal, man. Yikes, man, painful.
Can I do my impression of what Dave looks like right now? She looks like this.
Oh man.
But I love you, babe.
I can't do it. I can't take another step.
And I remember being in so much pain, like my legs were killing me, and I was praying, asking God to give me strength, and I had this moment where I was like, you know, this is just gonna suck, and it's gonna hurt, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just gonna accept it and just keep moving forward. Going back to like the philosophy, I guess, behind this is, no matter how much this may hurt, it doesn't hurt as much as being in my mom's position. It's dark now, it's maybe like 8 o'clock, the sun has set. We're about a mile from the beach and we're getting closer. We passed a bar scene and there are people out laughing, and I'm thinking this is no time for laughing. And we're walking by people and we're like, man, does anyone have any idea what we've just done? We've walked almost 51 miles to be here. We're a couple blocks away from the boardwalk and we are in intense pain. This has been brutal, but we're almost there. Almost there. As we got close to the finish, we knew that our wives and our support team and some friends were going to be at the Dunkin' Donuts right on the beach. As we get closer to the end, we see the Dunkin' Donuts, people start cheering for us.
One of the things that we wanted to do was touch the ocean because we had touched the Delaware River. We wanted to get to the ocean. We were both saying out loud, we gotta get to the ocean, it's not over yet.
We gotta go touch the ocean.
Go, go, go! Oh my God.
No, so much pain. We're in Delta Bell, baby. Oh my gosh, dude, this is awful. What's up?
And I take one step onto the sand, and I remember the cold wind off the ocean just like sliced right through me, and I just started like instantly shivering, like I was frozen.
And every foot in the sand, it just felt like we were sinking feet in.
Here we go. Break it.
We finally reached down and touched the ocean, and we did it. We finished it.
I don't know what I did to my body, but I really pushed myself to the limit, and thankfully I'm able to say that Nick and I accomplished the Delta Bell Challenge. Our total time was about 18 and a half hours. We did over 100,000 steps, and it was a challenge that Nick and I will talk about for the rest of our lives.
Reflecting back on the Delta Bell Challenge and the 50 miles that we walked, it didn't really hit me until a few weeks later, and I was talking to my dad, and he said, oh yeah, I was telling somebody at work about how my son walked across the state of New Jersey. And I thought to myself, wow, we walked across the state of New Jersey. I think that the biggest thing for me was, one, being able to support Dan and to be able to walk for someone and for people who can't walk, to be able to do something to honor other people was really powerful.
I was doing some research on my mom's situation to see how many brain cells die when someone has a stroke. And so my mom had a hemorrhagic stroke, which is the worst type of stroke you can have. For every second, it's like 33,000 brain cells die. And the average stroke was something like 3 minutes long, so that's like 3 million brain cells. And so my walk, I did 100,000 steps, and if that equaled 100,000 brain cells, and if those 100,000 brain cells were healed in my mom's brain, those 100,000 brain cells would turn the clock back on 3 seconds of my mom's stroke. So this challenge that I put on myself, as painful as it was, as excruciating as it was, as challenging as it was, only is a fraction of what my mom has experienced and what is experiencing today.
My prayer is always that this is an encouragement to people. When people think that something is impossible, when they think that they don't have the ability or the strength to get through a hard challenge in their life, I hope that they can look at this and say, whoa, these guys were able to do that, I can accomplish this.
And my hope is that this Delta Bell Challenge doesn't just stop and end with Nick and myself, but that this is opened up to other people, and that other people can join in with us. Because what if we had 20 people walking 50 miles? Now that's 2 million steps. What if we had 40, 60, 100, and it exponentially grows from there? And I think we can see a real collective difference made in the lives of those around us when we take a stand and we say, because that person can't, because they can't, we will do this thing and honor them. So because they can't, we will.
you.